First of all, I'm Lois Colbert. I'm the National Collegiate Assigner, which means I'm responsible for having all of the judges who are assigned to the college meets, which is roughly 2,000 assignments. I have 11 people who work with me on that assigning. What are the reasons we're doing this set of clinics? First of all, we have talked over the years about how we should be doing this, and we'd like to be doing it. But the coaches approached us this year and said, it's really important that you're new to college judges, have some extra training time in terms of what college judging is like. They want you to understand the difference between developmental and the college program, how the scores are different, and kind of getting used to the college environment and what happens when you get to a meet. They had wanted to have the new judge as a practice judge at a college meet, but we pointed out to them that that was difficult because a lot of the new judges don't live close enough to a college meet to be able to do that. So we're doing this instead. You also need to participate in the two clinic sessions that are going on December 5th and December 12th. Those will include practice judging. During the sessions, we will be doing some polls, which means that you'll get a question that you need to answer. That assures us that you're still with us during the session, because we need to make sure for the coaches that all first-year college judges have attended and participated in one of the clinics. Okay, there are going to be several speakers tonight. I've taken the place of one of them, and Cookie Batch, our president, is taking the place of one of the others. The other three, two of them are former regional assigners, and the third one was a meet ref at NCAA regionals last year. So that's just the most recent history. They're all former college competitors. So they will give you a little bit of background about themselves when they start. So I'm going to turn it over to Debbie Campbell, who is the RJD for Region 5.
Hi, I'm Debbie Campbell, and I live in Michigan. I've judged college for over 25 years. I was trying to remember the other day exactly how many, but about 25 years. I like it, again, because I have always wanted to help the sport, continue to have the sport grow. And for me to judge college, it's the way I feel I can do that. So I'm going to get started and a little bit about the differences in philosophy of collegiate gymnastics and the age group developmental programs. In college gymnastics, you're going to see clean, well-performed, concise routines. These athletes are the top 3% of the high school athletes. They're recruited to college. The gymnasts are more mature in their artistry, their movement, and their consistency. They most likely will not have the same routine that you saw them perform in club gymnastics. The routine may have less skills because the requirements, the bonus, and the composition are different than the developmental gymnastics. The skills in the routine that they do very well. And some of the skills they've been doing for a long time. So they've got them perfected. For college judging, we only use the rules modification document for our guide to the rules. This document lists the NCAA special requirements and the compositional deductions in total. No other special requirements or compositional deductions are applicable to collegiate competition unless listed in this document. Please note that these rules are in effect for both regular and postseason competition. Gymnasts are competing for a team score, but eligible for individual awards. And if their team doesn't move on to postseason, the individual could with their scores. Coaches are not necessarily looking for the gymnast to be ranked. They want the score to reflect how the gymnast performed that day. This is not saying that the coaches don't compare their gymnasts to each other or the other school. They just want the score to reflect what the gymnast performed that day. And they would love to see it consistent across the country. Every gymnast could score a 10-0 on that day if their start value allows. Collegiate composition does not allow us to separate the gymnasts the way we would in club gymnastics. A minimum requirement routine that fulfills all the compositional and special requirements can score the same as a routine that's stacked with difficulty if the execution is equal. College system. 6 athletes compete on each event with the top 5 scores counting toward the team score. In some meets, there can be up to 2 exhibitions per school. These exhibition scores do not count towards team score no matter what. Some coaches use exhibition to gain experience for the gymnast, see where the gymnast may score, see how the gymnast does under pressure, maybe the gymnast is coming off an injury. Please judge as if they were a counting score. The 6th score may not be important for the team score, but could be very important for the gymnast to use as a qualifying source, so be consistent. NQS, you're going to hear this throughout the season. It's the National Qualifying System. This ranking does not start until midseason around week 7. The top 36 teams qualify to regionals using National Qualifying Score rankings. The NQS is determined by taking a team's top 6 scores, 3 of which must be away, dropping the high score, and averaging the remaining 5. The top 16 teams by NQS are considered to be seeded. The top 12 all-arounders and top 16 individual specialists whose teams do not move on to the postseason on each event make it to postseason as an individual competitor. They also use their NQS for this qualifying purpose. Be aware of every O5 you take. Have a reason for every one you take or one that you don't take. It could change the rankings. For instance, a 195 team score is an average of a 975, a 196 is a 98, and a 197 is a 985. O5 makes a big difference in their team scores when you add them all up together. A team with a 196, 285 NQS qualified for regionals last year. A 196, 215 was the first team that was out of regionals last year. So that .05 is really important in how tight those NQS rankings are. .05 can also keep an individual gymnast from achieving athletic honors. Each conference awards individual athletes with athletic awards. Some conferences have season awards, and some have conference meet awards, some have postseason awards. So that 05 makes a big difference to all of those individuals also. All teams, individuals, regardless of the division, are eligible for NCAA nationals. Division 1, 2, and 3 can all qualify for postseason. As of the 2022-2023 season, NCAA had 62 Division 1 teams, 5 Division 2 teams, and 15 Division 3 teams. A Division 1 team has 12 scholarships per team, and they have an average size of 18 kids on the team. Division 2 has 6 scholarships with an average size of 21. And a Division 3 does not have any athletic scholarships, but does use scholarships in other ways, like academic or grants, and they have approximately 19 on a team. Each division will be adding a school this year with Clemson, Talladega, and Utica starting gymnastics program. So that's very exciting to see. I don't ever remember a year 3 teams been added. Scoring differences. Expectations for the score range are closer than what is allowable. We use the compulsory range 9.5 to 10.0 is a 0.2, 9.0 to 9.475 is 0.3, 8.0 to 8.975 is 0.5, and below 8.0 is 1.0. With 0.05 making a large difference in the gymnast score, the expectation is the judge's score should be tight together. A score in the upper 9s, 9.8-ish or 9.85, should have scores that are very close together. The routine was good with very few mistakes, so scores should be close. In the lineups, don't assume the first gymnast in the lineup is going to be your lowest score or that the last gymnast is going to be the highest score. Sometimes coaches used to do this. I haven't seen this as often. Sometimes they put athletes that are super consistent, more nervous, etc. in the first, and strong athletes up last spot to anchor the lineup. But sometimes that last person in the lineup is not going to be their top scorer. Coaches have different philosophies and reasons week to week for the changes in their lineup. We should be judging what we see that day at that time. College scoring tempers the up to deductions for execution. Even though they ask us to use the developmental execution deductions, we temper those deductions and don't take the full amount for the up to executions. This is what you should be given prior to starting the meet. This is an easy way to keep track of your scores to check the scores at the end of the meet. I write my scores in the score sheet so they are in one place and I can check them quickly and accurately at the end of the meet. This is also the official lineup unless an official lineup change has occurred during the meet. You should come up with a system that you can find a routine quickly with the score on your judging sheet. So the last thing we want to do is if we have an inquiry and you have to shuffle through all your papers. So make sure you're keeping well organized so that you can get to those quickly. Some colleges use these as individual score sheets for a paper trail. You record your score and your start value, and maybe you send it over to the head judge, or you use it to give it to your flasher. So, because those meets get really loud, so it's really hard sometimes to hear when you're leaning over and telling your assistant your score. So if you can show them, that makes it a little bit easier. Universities may choose to use this, but are not required to use this. And some universities don't have any paper trail at all. Common issues with collegiate judging. Assuming athletes have all their A's and B's. Go through your checklist. Double check special requirements and value parts. Coaches move in and out skills during the year. Simultaneously flashing of start value and your score. A lot of times you have an assistant helping you with this. Please communicate with the assistant to have the scores flashed at the same time as your judging partner, along with the start values. Tendency to score some teams lower because of their standing. If you are concerned about their standings and their rankings, you are a gymnastics fan and you belong in the stands. Our job is to be there to judge the meet impartially and judge what you see that day. Don't assume the start value is a 10-0 or that the up to level is fulfilled. Coaches change routines during the season to see what scores better, rest an athlete, etc. Go make sure you're going through your checklist to double check all of your start values and all your requirements. Not being consistent. A 0.05 deduction throughout the year at each meet should be the same no matter what team you are judging. D1 through D3 should be judged the same throughout the season, no matter the meet, opponents, or conference. Judge what you see that day. Be consistent what you've seen all year or will see. So this is your inquiry and routine summary form. Any inquiries will come to you on this sheet. The same sheet can then be used as a routine summary form on the bottom. Please remember to fill out the routine summary report correctly in longhand separately from your judging partner. Instructions are on the back of the form for the inquiries and the routine summaries. You need to be familiar with these forms so that when you get one, you will be able to fill it out quickly and accurately. You can locate these procedures on the NAWGJ website under NCAA tab labeled 2023-2024 Supplemental Procedures and Forms to the NCAA Rules Modification document. So what is your job? You need to be prepared, even over-prepared. Read the NCAA Gymnastics Rules Modification document, updates and clarification newsletters that come out about every 2 weeks. Great information. Be ready to back your scores with open scoring, inquiries, and routine summaries. Judge what you see that day. Execution. If you see it, take it. Simply judge what you see in that performance. Any video can go on the internet that they'll see, and they see all that execution. They know when there's a step taken on those routines. Please make sure you're checking the NAWG website, NCAA tab for information you should be familiar with, and attend the NCAA judging clinic that Lois talked about earlier to be prepared, and that will give you some practice judging for NCAA. They also are going to go over procedures and routine summaries in those. And now I believe I'm going to turn it over to Annie.
Debbie, thanks. That was a great overview. So I'm Annie, and I'm a Missouri judge, and I've been judging college about 15 years now. And I was a gymnast at Illinois State and just had a wonderful experience, and always kind of thought I'd get on the officiating side. I loved learning about, the values and the combinations. So I always kind of thought it's something that I would do. And to be honest, I absolutely love it. I think it's great. I've mentioned to some people that thrill of getting into an arena and hearing the gymnasts do their fight song and be so passionate about what they're doing as student athletes is just awesome. I also think being there for the senior nights and the different things that happen just throughout college is just, I don't know, it's really cool. So I've really enjoyed it. And my part tonight is to talk about before the meet. So as we get to the meet and we get onto the site, what's going to happen? I kind of have a little checklist, and you'll get your event assignments. Many of you might already have your event assignments on the website, but they can change. So make sure, first of all, going into your meet, you check your event assignment often. Whether things happen, sometimes you never know, something's going to happen and you get switched. So make sure you're checking those event assignments, and then also have a really good system for how you're going to make sure that you know exactly where you're going, your travel arrangements, your what if if your flight's delayed, you have a cell phone number on hand that you know who you're going to contact right away. Often that's going to be your assigner and your host person who is your direct contact at the university. So just kind of make sure that you check those things. And also, a lesson learned that I had, check your time zones. So make sure that if you are traveling, that you make a note of where you're going and what that report time is with the time zone. Prior to a meet, you should expect to hear not only from your host institution. I know right now we're already getting lots of emails to fill out contracts, asking about if we're flying or driving. Once that kind of settles in and our contracts go through, expect like another round that will probably come from your meet ref and your chief judge, just giving you any other specifics that they found out. And then from your chief judge, specific to your event, they will talk to you about what routines they want you to review so that when you get on site, you'll be specifically looking over routines before the meet. Go through your bag and kind of repack for the next meet. Make sure you have all your systems in place. You clean out your old routines. You don't need that paper anymore. Get rid of all that and just be ready for a fresh meet. And then I would practice judge. We have so many resources on the website. And I think later on, they'll kind of show some things on the website, but there's so many different things that we can use to just be prepared. So that I think is a good checklist that got me started. Okay, so now what actually goes into your bag? We have our developmental, we have college, and you all have your other personal lives and how you organize, but specific to college, these are some of the things that I found helpful to put into my judging bag. You have your rules and modifications, and there's a lot of supplemental aids. So ways that we can look at how we want to look at the college rules. Some of us like, more of a horizontal, some of us up and down. It just depends on how you want those rules to look when you're on the floor. So I would open up all the different documents available to you and see what works well for you, whatever your system is. And same thing with paper. I know in developmental, I write pretty tiny and can get a lot of stuff on one page. In college, I literally only put like 2 routines on a page. I have my own papers I print out that have handwritten special requirement up to level, and I check them off. I actually don't use one of the standard forms that many of us can use, but for me, I just write much bigger in college. So I learned that about myself. So I have my own paper system for that. We all love new pens. So make sure you got a pen that you know works well for you. A lot of the colleges will have some type of flag for us to raise. It's usually very big because in college, we definitely don't want be touching our hair and think the gymnast thinks we saluted. This can happen in developmental, but in college with so many fights and things going on, we want to make sure that when we raise a flag, it's to salute. So if you have an extra flag, if they don't have that, I think that's helpful. The host institution, most of the time, will have your start value, the score that you turn, and they should have like the UTL orange sign for you to flip up. But sometimes it's missing or whatever is going on. And I just printed an orange piece of paper with UTL that's folded over. And if I need to use it, I can get it out and use it. Yellow card. So this is new or not new into college. You're not used to having this with the DP program, but we do have yellow cards in case our coaches are a lot of line or there's a reason we need to just have a yellow card to make note to our meet referee that there's something to be addressed. And so it can just be literally like a yellow index card, just a small piece of paper that is yellow that you're prepared if you need to use it. I think I found that I've only used a yellow card one time, and it's when I didn't have a yellow card and I had to like make a yellow card. So if you have it, you won't have to use it. So that would be my tip. And then last piece, whatever you like, just gives you comfort, chapstick, lotion, your favorite pen, whatever it is, so that you have that to just feel comfortable as you get on the floor. Okay, so you have all your information, you've packed your bag, and now here you are, you've walked into your facility. I would say most of the time they treat us so well and have people to help guide us to our judges room. But if not, to ask questions and make your way to your judges room. And once you get there, this is what you can usually expect at your judges meeting. So your meet referee is going to review meet protocols, anything specific to what's going on. If you have TV, if it's, I mentioned like a senior night or they're recognizing faculty or just something that you're going to know that might just make the, after the meet referee conversation, usually we'll break out into our separate little meetings with your chief judge. It's really going to guide your conversation. But this is a great time to ask questions. As a new judge, really ask as many questions as you want. Because the more that you talk through off the floor, I found it made me feel just much more comfortable on the floor. You know, where you're going to conference, if there's a conference, again, be over prepared for these things. What does the inquiry system look like? You know, reviewing the videos beforehand, what are you going to talk about right then, and be prepared. And after that meeting, usually we get the okay from the host institution. They say, all right, athletes are off the floor. Meet referee will say, all right, you're free to go out to your events. And I think it's been comforting to kind of walk out with your chief judge and go to your panels respectively. And then the meet gets started. And then I think that's where the fun begins. You're on the floor. And I think, Cookie, are you doing meet procedures?
I am going to do that tonight. And now we're going to talk about being on the actual field of play. I have to say the one thing that is very different, no matter what college meet you're at, there's a different excitement, there's a different environment. You're going to go into programs that are smaller, and there won't be very many people in the audience, but that team, the excitement is still there, and for the audience, it's still there, even though there may not be very many people. All the way up to the place where you've got the stands are full, you've got ESPN hanging over your shoulder, you've got the athletes screaming, the cheerleaders, the mascots, and even sometimes the band. It's just a very exciting environment. What you have to do is to pull yourself in and get yourself focused on what you need to do. So what do you need to do? One of the first things is get to your table for your first event. Most likely you'll be assigned to 2 events for your meets. If there's more than 3 teams, sometimes they'll have 8 judges and you'll only have 1 event. You probably won't be chief judge very often this first year, but go to your first event table and then get yourself organized. So some of the things that you can use to get organized is make sure that find the start value that they've even given to you, or if you've been prepared, you can bring your own. Use the one that they have given you if they've provided it, but we do like to keep a backup start value flasher in our own bag. Find out what kind of, Annie mentioned cheat sheets, what kind of different kinds of things that help you remember the rules of college. It's very hard for us to go from judging, say, a meet on a Friday with 300 age group athletes, and then the next day we go and we're suddenly judging college with all this different set of rules. So find some things that will help you remember to make that transition. Some people judge on an iPad, others judge on paper at the college level. They showed you that NCAA score sheet. You really do need to get into the habit of putting your scores on that score sheet, because when you go back into the room after the competition is over, one of the first things you're required to do is to go through and verify the scores. And you'll just read them out across the chief judge, judge 2, and the average. And you have to verify that. And they do make mistakes sometimes, so it's extremely important that you keep yours orderly and you can get to them quickly. The scoring slips, if they do use them, be sure and check that they're in the correct order, and you'll check that against the master score sheet that they give you. So the score sheet that Debbie showed you is usually the one that you'll get right away. Make sure that the written paper slips are in the same order as the athletes are listed on the master score sheet. It's very disconcerting to everybody when the score sheets get out of order, and it happens. That's why we can all speak from experience. So just get yourself into the habit, pick them up, and make sure that they're all exactly matching straight down the line. What you write on those score sheets when they use it, you would write the same things that you maybe, if you're using paper score sheets now, the start value and the score for sure. And then if you took an out of bounds, if it's on floor or a UT out, and that's just to give your chief judge a clue as to why you might be different in case the scores are a little further away than they should be. You can keep your NCAA rules modification document. I keep it in my bag. What I do is I pull out just the sheets for the event that I'm judging. I make up a file folder for each event I'm judging at that particular meet, so that I can just pull that file folder out, and then I'll put my slips in there after we get those usually back in the meeting room. I put my rules for the modification, and I'll put my score sheets. And I actually will have them so that I already numbered them when I've been back in the meeting room. So all I have to do is pull that out and then sit down, organize it, and then I'm ready to go. If you're on vault, you'll want the start value chart for the vaults. You might want to use the enlarged one. You can take it to any Xerox machine and enlarge it, because in some cases, the lighting may not be very good where you're sitting, and it might help you see the actual number of the vault that's being flashed and the start value for that. And then the orange UTL card will be there. It's usually positioned right in front of you. Turn it down because I have left mine up by mistake. And then the first get up, the coach thinks I took the UTL deduction. So be sure and keep it down until when you use it. You will have some assistants, and depending on the size and the complexity of the meet, you may have one assistant or you may have 2 or 3 assistants, and they'll all be assigned a specific duty. The one you're concerned with is the person who is going to be flashing your score and running your score, if that is the system that they're using. If they're using a totally electronic system, you may not have anybody running your score, but you will probably have somebody who's going to be giving your score and recording it. Introduce yourself to them. Be very kind to these people. They're all volunteers. They're probably just as nervous to see you as you are to be there judging. So be very kind, put them at ease, ask them what job they have been asked to do. Find out what they've been told they're supposed to do, and then have them tell you that so you can see if what they think they're supposed to do is what you want them to do. The most important thing for those people is that they're going to be turning your score and your start value simultaneously with the other judge. And it's extremely important that be done simultaneously. It's one thing that coaches are very, very sensitive to. And that is, if you are delayed in turning yours, they make the assumption you don't have the confidence in your score and that you're waiting to see what the other judge flashes before you turn yours, and that you might change yours. And they don't want that. Even if you're wrong, just go ahead and turn it and flash it. And then you can always deal with mistakes later. Once you get to a competition, you need to be in the background. Just because these are often televised meets doesn't mean this is the time for you to say, hi, mom, or for your kids or your grandkids to see you. You're supposed to be invisible, so stay in your seat unless a conference is called. And then when you do, go over for the conference, wherever the designated spot is, have your conference, turn around and get back as quickly as possible. Timing of these meets is critical for 2 reasons. The athletes have warmed up, they're prepared, they have a mental set, they're ready to go. And if the coaches do get very upset if we have so many conferences and take too long in those conferences, and the athletes are getting more nervous and their muscles may be getting cold too. But also, we moved into the era of television. And for many of these televised meets, timing is critical to them because they have another event that they have to pick up and televise as soon as our event is over. So they really don't like us to be running late. So everything you do, think about that. Timing matters. If you have to go and walk to your conference for a conference, do it quickly, do it efficiently, let the chief judge handle it, and then sit back down as fast as you can so that the meet can move on. Okay, we all make mistakes. We know that. So if you do, there's not really much you can do about it on the spot. At age group meets, we often are sitting next to our partner and we can say, oh, wait, change my start value. I was wrong. That can't happen at college. The only way that happens is if an inquiry is submitted or if the chief judge calls a conference. So just let it go. You know that there are opportunities for you to repair your mistake, and realize that every single one of us, there's not, if the 200 judges that we have in our association, there's not any of them who haven't made mistakes. And so we basically just have to keep going on, block it out, just like the athletes do when they make a mistake, and keep moving.
If you put your start value up and you see the other person's start value and you know you're wrong, like you're like, oh yeah, I forgot. Should you change that start value? No. Nope. Not until there's an inquiry. And then if you do have an inquiry and you have a conference, or if you have a conference, then you'll go back to your seat and then you'll reflash your start value and reflash your score if it's a conference right then. For an inquiry, that you can't change your start value, and if the inquiry comes in, then you can make your change and your adjustment.
You have your yellow card. Hopefully you don't have to use that. For the most part, 99% of the time, you'll never even think about needing a yellow card. As the season progresses and the coaches get more and more concerned about, are they going to make it to regionals or not, they become a little bit more passionate. And sometimes that passion calls your patience into a mode in which you might want to have that yellow card available. Most of the time, you'll have a good time out there on the floor. We've said that about conferences and inquiries, let your chief judge drive that conference and handle them quickly, and that's really important. What we have not talked about is we do have video inquiries. And I hope you'll come to love these, because these will give you the opportunity to correct your mistake right there on the spot. So a coach can submit an inquiry, just like you do in age group, or they can submit a video inquiry. They're the same thing, except the video inquiry comes with a video. You'll get a chance right away to look. If you made a mistake, don't make a big deal of it. Just say, oh, I made a mistake. Let me fix my score. It is so much better to fix it then than it is to have to go through other processes, such as a video review after the meet is over, or having the whole arena watching it on replay, and they know you made the mistake, but you don't know it. This is your chance. You get to fix your mistake right there. Some of our very best judges have used the video inquiry to correct a mistake, and it's faster than having a conference, basically, because they can just see it. They know right away. As soon as they see that video, they know they're wrong. If something is unusual, again, you don't get out of your seat, let your meet referee know. You'll have to try to signal that person. If you don't have a walking meet referee, that will be more difficult. Many of the meets have a walking meet referee, and they're keeping their eye on you to see if you need something. So if you need them and you can get their attention, let them know if there's something that you think that the gymnast has done that's not appropriate, or if maybe the chief judge made a mistake. Sometimes that happens, and you can't really do anything about that. You can let the meet ref know so that she can monitor what's going on. But if you see something like that, use the meet ref. Don't get up out of your seat and try to do anything about it. It's really important that you don't watch other events or look around at the scoreboard. In this world of college gymnastics, it's a big business for these universities and these coaches. It's their jobs. They get hired and fired based on how their team does. So you get a little bit paranoid. If they see you looking around at other events and at the scoreboard, they think that you're keeping track of scores, and that somehow that's going to influence the way that you're going to score their team when their team gets to you. So do yourself a favor and just don't look at the scoreboard. Rather than saying it straight out, don't watch other events, there are times when you'll be seated in such a way that you can watch other events unobtrusively, because you might be sitting where you can see bars perfectly. Let's just say you're on vault and you're done, your event is done, and you can see bars without having to turn around and look. I don't see anything wrong with you watching those bar routines, but don't watch at the scores, because that's really where they get in trouble. You can get in trouble with the coaches thinking that you are going to be biased. But in a meet where you would have to manipulate yourself to try to look to see, that's really not a very professional thing to do. Just stay seated in your seat, looking forward. And then transfer your scores from your personal score sheets. You can do that while you're waiting. While the chief judge has other paperwork to do, you can do that right away, or you can wait and do it at the end. I always prefer to do it right away because it helps me keep track to make sure I have the right athlete as well. We are going to go through this more about the notating of the reason for each deduction. We're going to go through that in depth at the clinics that we have in December. But just so that you know, if you don't know 20 minutes after a routine is over why you took a deduction that you took, start practicing now, even at a compulsory meet. Write something for bent knees. So don't just write the deduction, write why you took the deduction and notate it in a way, because if you have a routine summary form, that's what they're asking you. They don't want to know that you just took the half a tenth. They want to know why. Was it the knees? Was it the feet? What was it that you took it for? So be sure and start working on that. Okay, so I think Debbie did a good job of covering most of these, but just as a review, making no assumptions. Be sure and verify that every athlete's got all her value parts, has both CV and DV, and that remember that the start value base is 9.4. I will just put in here an anecdote. Lois and I have been doing this. This is our 4th year now. And every one of those years, there's been a team that has been scored by 6 or 7 different sets of judges and received 10.0 start values. Only when the next set of judges comes in, they find out that the athlete has been missing a B all year long, and the judges didn't catch it. So the reason we're emphasizing, it may sound basic to you, but you really have to pay attention in college. Don't assume because you're judging the top team in the country that they've got all their A's and B's. And then also make sure you verify your UTL is fulfilled. And an important one is the third blue bullet over, and that's don't assume that scores will build. Kind of the old style gymnastics was the weakest gymnast was put up first, or sometimes it was the most stable, was put up first, and then the scores just got higher from there. And the last gymnast might be that gets your best score. The coaches have gotten very wise. Sometimes they'll put their very best gymnast first. Somebody told me the other day they had a first gymnast get a 10-0. And if that's what that athlete deserves, that's the score you give. So don't assume that number 1 is going to get the lowest score and gymnast number 6 is going to get the highest score. You just have to judge exactly what you see. Okay, and I think I'm done with one exception, but we didn't talk about last time, and I remembered it. You're going to know athletes. Sometimes they may just be their first year in college, and you judge them all their whole career as an age group athlete. And they're going to be so excited to see you, and you're going to be kind of excited to see them. Their coaches work with them to tell them to act like they don't know you, and you need to observe that too. There can't be any hugging or kissing or high-fiving with those athletes, because you have to remember everything that you do is being viewed at the perspective that you could be biased in favor of one team or another. If you're hugging an athlete, that does not give the appearance of being neutral, and you have to do that.
Thank you, Cookie. My name is Patty Colarossi, and I'm a national judge from Massachusetts, and I was a signer, and I was also a collegiate gymnast, and I just enjoy college gymnastics. It allows me to give back to the sport, and I was lucky enough when I was in college, a professor actually gave a gymnastics judging course, and I was able to get my compulsory rating and also get a college credit. So that's how I got into judging. And then as I graduated and went on, I did the developmental program for many years, and then started to judge college. And it's a great environment to be in, and I just really enjoy it. And it's a fun thing to be a part of. It does have its challenges, but I think that the good definitely outweighs the bad. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Road to Nationals website and how to maneuver some things that are a little bit tricky. There's some places where you have to save things, and it's not always right there, and where to find the payment details and institution information. One of the things that I wanted to share is event preferences. So oftentimes people may not put anything in there, which then I just assume you don't mind any where you are placed. But this allows, especially for newer judges, it allows the assigner to say, okay, they feel most comfortable on beam, so I'm going to put them on beam for this meet, and then they're doing another meet, so I'm going to, back to back, I'm going to do that. It just gives you an idea. Now, it's not to say you're not going to get placed on that event preference 4, because a lot of times, sometimes when you try to put people in and make sure that the assignments are balanced, you don't always get what you want. So it's important to make sure this is filled out, and that way it's there for the assigners to see that. Now, as far as dates of availability, please remember that when you're putting in your dates of availability, it turns gray if you're not available and blue if you are. It's also important that you save each month as you're going through it. So if all of a sudden you realize you have something January 7th and you're no longer available, you want to make sure that you gray that out and then save it up here. So that's really important. And then up here, this spot, you can view and edit availability. So let's say in your general availability, I'm going to show you like my general availability. I typically have a set amount for driving, and sometimes during the week I limit it to a certain number of miles, or on the weekends I'll drive. I'll drive. However, there's certain dates that I then say, well, I don't want to be available to fly 3,000 miles that weekend. I want to maybe limit it to like 600 miles. So what you may want to do is you need to go into those dates and say, yes, you'll drive. Like this Friday, I said I would drive 60 miles. That was a limit, just because if I was working on that Friday, I didn't think, I'd be able to get there, drive 100 miles or whatever because of traffic. And then I put no fly. But you can do that for individual dates. And I think a lot of times people don't know that, and they'll just put their general availability, and then they'll be assigned certain times, and they won't realize that they can they can edit that. But again, make sure you save it. Make sure you always look for that save button. One thing to always remember is to, as you have situations change and availability change, make sure you go in and update that. There's nothing worse than, I'm thinking of my assigner time when, you find out early in the morning someone's ill and they can't make it to the meet, and you have 6 people that say they're available to find out that they're not, and to go through all that, all those different people to try to find someone. I can't emphasize it enough. It may change, your availability could change by every weekend, can change very instantly. So if you do take another meet or you have another commitment, just make sure you gray that out so that the assigner knows that you're not available. And then the evaluation summary, you can look back and you can see, what meets you were evaluated and the number of evaluations. That's at the end of the season. I also want to go to a dashboard assignment. So to view the assignment, if you want to look at the payment information, if you go to payment information, like this is a meet I'm doing Sunday, January 28th at Brown University, and it's Alaska and Southern. It has the fee here, but then it has payment info. And it'll talk about how they pay. So Brown pays by direct deposit, a thing for a hotel. They don't typically have people fly in. And then it talks about the contact person at the school. And then it also talks about your regional judging assigner, like Lois was talking about. I think a lot of times that is the hardest thing, especially if you're traveling to a different area where you don't know who the assigner is. You can always look at the payment information, and that's what will have the payment information and the team contact. And you always want to look for that regional assigner first. And it's also on your contract that's sent by the school. And I think, again, a lot of people don't realize that that's on the contract. And, obviously, if you're in a situation where you're traveling and all of a sudden your flight's delayed and you're trying to get a hold of you're not going to remember what you had in your contract. That's another one thing to be prepared, especially if you're traveling, to write down the assigner's name on the payment information, because then you have their name, their email, and their phone number, just in case something happens. The other thing is, after the meet is done, you're going to see something called self-reflection. And this I think it turns green once the meet's completed. And it's important for you to fill it out. It will just say, did you follow protocol? Did you answer inquiries in a timely manner? Did you do routine summaries? Sometimes it's yes, sometimes it's not applicable. If there's any comments to make, at the bottom, you can, like if something, went really well, just say the institution was very professional and was very organized. If there's some kind of hiccup that's there, you certainly could put that in. For the most part, it's a self-reflection and not really a reflection on everything else. But they're yes and no questions. But it's important for you to fill that out so that the meet referee has it. And it's something that you need to do after each meet. In addition to this, I wanted to also share something from the NAWGJ website. So on the NAWGJ website, which has a wonderful resources of a lot of information, and the NCAA portion has so much. I get my job aids from here for information and the rules archives. But if you go to this, these updates don't come to you automatically. You don't sign up for them and get them. You have to go in and you have to get them from the NAWGJ website. The rules are right here. And then down below, as you can see already, there's 3 newsletters that have come out. And I think it was either Debbie or Annie saying they come out the 1st or the 15th. So you always kind of want to keep that in your mind to double check these and keep them. And there's also, since this is a 2-year, the rules are every 2 years, there's going to be some archived ones from last year of things that came up. As you see, one just came out as recently as November 16th. And each one always has an interesting situation that comes up throughout the season. And it's very interesting, some of the questions, because I'm always surprised that, I'm like, wow, yeah, I didn't think about that. That's a good point. And we can always submit if we have something that is in question to the rules person. That's now Jeanette just said. So these are just some little tips for you to know and to look at the website and to with Road to Nationals to, just be alert of different resources that are available because, everyone has a different way of doing things. And I know some people do judge on the iPad, some people judge on paper. I'm a lefty, so I always have all my stuff on the left-hand side, and I'm trying to always I write big, just like Annie was saying, she writes big. So I tend not to use the standard score sheets. I kind of use them as a guide, and then I handwrite things out. But I'm very excited that we have a lot of new people interested this year, and I hope you have a good experience. And just remember, there's a lot of people that are there to support you, and don't feel shy about asking anybody any questions. We've all been there.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to get Debbie back up here and let her continue on.
Do we have
Where's
any
those-
questions for you guys? Do you guys have any questions?
Cookie, I have a couple things just to generally add. I sent out a newsletter or a letter to all of the judges in jazz this morning. We have had some problem with people getting those. So, and what they are is usually their answers in general to questions that people have asked me individually. But the current one has the clinic information and a number of other items. If you aren't getting that, would you let me know so I can kind of try to find out why? This was the 9th one I've done since August. So you should have been getting them all along. So just send me a note to say, I'm not getting your newsletters. One of the other things that came out recently, Jeanette's Rules News that she sends out, she wanted to remind people that for college, not only do we use the college modifications, but we're using the USAG rules, and there are new ones that came out this year. So when you're preparing to judge, make sure you look at the USAG rules. The site to get to those quickly is on the first page of Jeanette's newsletter, 4th or 5th one down. The busy weekend that I scheduled was March 23rd, which is a conference weekend. If you are free on that weekend, put it in as available, because in the last few days I've had to replace a couple judges and I may need more. So if you're free, and keep yourself available, because during the winter there will be more changes. And on that particular day, I assigned 184 judges. So there's a lot of positions. The written exam I mentioned in my letter this morning comes out. It's supposed to be out now, but it won't be for probably another week. But when you go to find it, it's on that section that Patty was going down on the Jazz site. And it will say written examination or something like that. And you take it online, and then you get your results online. So that's my extra stuff. Thanks.
Yeah, one thing we didn't, maybe since we have some time, just talk a little bit more about what we call the on-site reviews. So something that we do very differently in the college world than in the developmental programs is during the meetings that Annie was talking about, she mentioned that we do the on-site videos. Those are posted on our website. They're also available in a link. There's a link there to a Google Drive that you can actually download those and have them on your phone or on your iPad or whatever, and take them with you. In the ideal world, you're judging them in the venue itself, right there before the event begins. And the reason for that is the coaches wanted us to do this because it is hard for our brains to switch over and switch gears when we've been judging 300, 400 age group athletes one weekend, and then we get a Friday night meet and we suddenly are judging college roles. Can't tell you how many times the first routine out, there's mistakes by the judges. And they're kind of typical, forgetting to give the bonus for the single bar release, for example, forgetting to give the bonus for the double back saltos at the end of floor. So there's a +1 for something else on beam. So they said, can't you come up with some system to help the judges get back into college mode before they go out on the floor? So in the ideal world, you're doing it right there during your meeting with your panel, your chief judge. However, that often doesn't work because of technology capabilities. Sometimes the Wi-Fi is not working. in the bottom parts of the arena. So some meet referees or chief judges will ask you to do that individually at home, to go on the website, look at those, and then come prepared to talk about those routines. The emphasis is not on the execution. The emphasis is on the college rules, to make sure that you caught the composition deductions, make sure you remember to start with a 9-4, to make sure you know that the differences in beam value parts, and that's the one that's probably the most complicated for us. So just you might go on early and kind of look at some of those. We ask you to pick ones that are not from a school you're judging at, obviously, because there's always this perception of bias, and so we try to keep it as clean as we possibly can. So that's something to be expected to do. And it's one of the reasons we need to get there earlier for a report time than you do in an age group meet.
Okay, Cookie, are we good, you think? We want to wrap this up?
I think we're all pretty good.
Okay.
I will emphasize something probably that every speaker's alluded to, and that is please go to the NCAA site on our website. There's so many resources there. What Patty mentioned, it's essential you read those newsletters. You have to read them before you could judge every meet. That might be one thing that you, depending on if you're a paper person or an iPad person, keep them with you, get all of them, review them, because a clarification that came in on the November 16th one, if you're judging November 18th, could affect the score of the event you're judging. So that's absolutely essential. Annie emphasized, I think even more last time than this time, how much she prepares before she goes to meet. She practice judges, she gets ready, she gets organized, she practice judges. I just can't tell you how hard it is to make the switch and not make a mistake when you go from age group to college. So, or vice versa, you come back. I mean, I sometimes find myself in the age group program wanting to take a college deduction. So prepare in advance. When you're at the meet, professional, wear your uniform, give no appearance of being biased at all, do your job, and then just congratulate yourself when it's over. If you made a mistake, forgive yourself. And then exactly what Patty said, be sure and update your availability so we can assign meets when we need you and you're available. Okay. And I want to thank this panel. They did a great job the first night we did it, and they've come back and done a great job. I want to give credit for the slides that I did to Lucia Lake. Lucia was the panelist, and she developed those comments and thoughts. So we really appreciate it. But she's on a plane flying someplace tonight, so she was not able to join us. So thanks to everybody. And if you have any questions, you can send emails to any of the panelists. Lois is always, Lois is great at getting emails and responding, but we're happy to help you. And we really welcome you to the world of college judging. Have a good evening.